Greetings, fellow mortals. You know what? I've looked at my clickbait title and decided that's not even right. If you think about it, George Lucas never intended for Star Wars to continue past the first movie, so all of the movies past A New Hope are completely unnecessary. This is me trolling you right now. I actually don't believe that. The Empire Strikes Back is the best movie after all, but you can tell it was not planned when A New Hope was made. The lack of forethought led to retcons even during the original trilogy. If you think about some aspects of the movies, a lot of things don't make sense. And that process has continued ever since, and it's only getting worse. Now this is where I'm supposed to point at The Last Jedi. I'm supposed to roast everything about that movie, but out of every Star Wars film that came after Return of the Jedi, I think that is my favorite. I love how nothing really matters in the story. I love how it just spits on itself. I love how people take it so seriously when the movie hates the fact that it even exists. No one comes off as wanting to be there. There is so little effort and thought put into anything involving the story. The creators didn't want to do it, but Disney threw amazing amounts of money at them. So I'm not blaming anyone for being involved in this. I'm not going to sit here and say that I wouldn't sell out. I would sell out for millions of dollars in seconds, but I would at least be honest about it. Let me go back to the beginning of Star Wars for me. Here's my history and mindset with the Star Wars films. When I was 6, I decided to watch Star Wars and see why everyone loved it. As such, my stupid kid brain decided to start out with the very first movie. And my dumb brain thought that episode 1 was the beginning. Boy, was I bored as I watched The Phantom Menace. I didn't even like the pod racing part. The entire thing confused me because I didn't think that a kid could drive/fly like that. I know that I couldn't. Then there was episode 2. I literally fell asleep during that film. To this day, I have not experienced the story of Attack of the Clones in one sitting. And I did not care when Revenge of the Sith came out. I remember when it was first in theaters. I did not understand why people wanted to see it. That was when my parents explained to me that those were the prequel movies. The original set of films were way better according to them. That's when my entire mindset turned around. If I watched the original movies, it would make me love the franchise. This was where it would all turn around for me. But then I watched A New Hope, and I realized something very important. That was just Spaceballs, and Thumb Wars, and all of the other parodies that I saw on television. The movie was good, but it was ruined for me by everything copying it. So I didn't gain an emotional attachment to it. But I did really like Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi was a fine ending for the original trilogy. I didn't really get how the Space Marines with future technology lost to people with bows and arrows, but okay. And Darth Vader's redemption didn't really hit home with me after I realized that he killed a bunch of kids for no good reason. Plus, they used the Death Star again. That was really weird. Of course, they used the Death Star again when The Force Awakens came out, but that's okay. They just redid the entire plot of A New Hope with that movie, and I loved The Last Jedi for all the reasons that I explained earlier. Plus, all of the people fighting over the movie filled me with joy. I love watching a good dumpster fire, as long as I'm not a part of it. And then finally, I laughed my way through the nonsensical absurdity that was Rise of Skywalker. It got so bad that my wife's girlfriend at the time had to tell me to stop laughing. People supposedly were trying to enjoy the movie. Of course, she felt embarrassed that she dragged me to see it as soon as it came out, so... By now, you might be asking about the other Star Wars creations. I've never really found the books to be anything better than mediocre. I didn't care much about the Clone Wars cartoons either, even though I will readily admit that the writing quality was a lot higher. I just didn't really care about those characters. And I did have fun with some of the games. The Star Wars Battlefront games are super fun. Fallen Order was a janky good old time. And Knights of the Old Republic is always great. and I do remember having one great night in high school where my friends and I got together to play the Star Wars dancing game. But I can't say that I ever loved Star Wars as a franchise because I don't know if the really good games even needed the Star Wars name. Think about it. Does Knights of the Old Republic really need to have the Star Wars name and lore? If you changed those aspects of it, would it really matter? The same thing for everything else. It's just name value. Just look at the Star Wars Squadrons game. You could change the story just a little bit and have the same story and the same game, and it would be called Chorus, because Chorus is a fun, if imperfect game with Star Wars elements in it. In that game, you play as a regretful female Darth Vader as she flies around her special ship, the Forsaken. Throughout the whole experience, you never leave your ship. That makes connecting with other characters and keeping track of the lore a little difficult, but I did enjoy the gameplay and appreciate the outline of the story. I would recommend Chorus to anyone who is interested in a spaceflight game. They do enough to change the story from Star Wars to make it different while showing its inspiration on its sleeve. While not perfect, Chorus did stick with me because it was a little different. With wave after wave of Star Wars content, I don't feel connected to any of it. I don't see the level of quality needed to justify continuing the story way past where it was intended to go. At this point, people are either going to watch it for one of three reasons. Either because they like watching it ironically, because they adore everything Star Wars, or because they hate watching things that they don't like. Unfortunately, I find myself in the first camp. Well, I also like watching the fallout and fighting on social media. Dumpster fires. Because despite everything, people do feel passionately about Star Wars. Perhaps a little too much so. Both camps tend to argue and bicker over every little detail. Now, this is nothing new to fandoms. It's commonplace for people to be toxic on the internet. The disconnection from screen to screen is obvious because even people that I find to be intelligent seem to just say their first instincts. It's like they don't know that they're screaming it out for the world to hear. Now, let's be clear. I don't care whatsoever about the fight over diverse characters. In a universe where there are aliens left and right, it doesn't matter what the skin color, gender identity, or the sexual preference of a character is. All I care about is that the characters are well written, and I would say that's just not the case for the most part. I found myself laughing all the time while watching Obi-Wan when they made ludicrously stupid decisions because the writers needed something to happen. If you like the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, then that's fine. I'm not trying to take away your enjoyment of anything. One of my favorite shows from this year was Judge Steve Harvey. It's a ludicrous premise, and it's not like Steve Harvey's rulings can carry any actual weight, but I like to watch it. I don't have to think too much, and it makes me feel good. If Star Wars past the original trilogy makes you feel good, then enjoy it. I won't try to change what you feel. But I would like to hear from you about what you think is so great about it all. Which story from the Star Wars franchise actually speaks to you? Because I'm not willing to throw away the ideas of each of the movies. The prequels had unique takes when it came to political dramas. It was just poorly executed. The same thing could be said for the sequel trilogy. They wanted to contextualize the original series and show how the next generation struggles to understand the previous one, even when the previous fight seems pretty cut and dry. Is that what you saw? If not, leave a comment explaining what you got from those films. Because I suppose that you could say that art doesn't need to justify its own existence, but in storytelling, it kind of does. I don't see anything about Star Wars past the original trilogy that needed to be called Star Wars. It's just the brand name that they wanted to draw attention. It's all about a money-making scheme. Like I said earlier, I don't blame anyone for selling out. I don't blame George Lucas for selling his franchise. I don't blame Disney for capitalizing on it. And I don't even blame people for finding enjoyment out of it all. It's hard to argue that anything past the original trilogy captured the magic at the start. Accepting things as they are won't bring about positive change. The only way to make any sort of change would be to use your pocketbook. If you don't like something, don't give it money. Don't give it attention. Even negative attention brings engagement and money. Just look at the weird situation with Riva. A few loud, stupid, racist people posted terrible comments on the internet. The Star Wars Twitter account condemned it. Gullible fans thought that the Star Wars Twitter account was talking about them because they didn't like Riva's character, which she did not act very rationally, so I understand. But then a huge fight broke out. Obvious disclaimer is obvious. I don't support racism or sexism. Obviously, I thought Obi-Wan was acting just as irrational as anyone else, so it was all equal. Things like sex or race don't really matter to me in a story, but seeing this fighting made me realize that there is a problem, and it made me question if Star Wars should have even continued. Perhaps it's better off left alone. Maybe we can give a few new ideas like chorus a try, or we can just all keep yelling at each other. I guess that's your choice. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my takes on storytelling, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. And also remember that I will be self-publishing my novel, Dance of Frozen Death, at the start of 2023. I hope that you will check it out. I appreciate you. Do not despair.